We should have a presentation that's I love data. If you know me well, you know I do really interesting looking things with data. I didn't do this, but I'm using this to show that what we can see with data. Dr. Sachs has talked about using knowledge to inform our decisions. And when we look at this chart, we can see that we're getting pretty close to needing a miracle to get out of the situation that we're in with climate change. I went to graduate school to help plan the land of religious communities. I was staying in a convent when I was in my early 20s thinking about becoming a nun, and I saw that all of their programs would have been enhanced by land use. And my spiritual director said, if you can't stop thinking about it, you should probably follow it. So now I'm here today, and on this journey I went to go find the Nature Conservancy of the Catholic NGO world, or I decided I was going to join the cartography department or the planning department of the Vatican, and it felt like I was running up this massive mountain, and I got to the top and there was no one there. Nevertheless, on that journey, I heard so often at conferences like Land and Poverty at the World Bank, the Catholic Church is the largest landholder in my country. On this journey, in May 2016, I found myself in the third loggia of the Apostolic Palace. This is a beautiful hallway painted with some of the most spectacular maps in the world, and I had gone to ask the Vatican about their cartography department if it existed, and to seek permission and let people know in leadership that I was interested in mapping it if there was no department. And the Monsignors looked at each other and they spoke in Italian, and I sat there nervously, hoping the maps in the hall might help my argument, and one looked back at me and said, why yes, this would be useful for everything. And so in a matter of months, I was leading a team of cartographers, database developers, and programmers in the development of the first comprehensive global maps of the Catholic Church in history. These are also the first global maps of any major world religion in modern history. And they are useful for everything. That one just on the screen, we can use it to send bishops birthday cards, but there's also ones that are more useful like this that show, deforestation. So I founded GoodLands to fill this enormous gap. GoodLands was founded on the premise that land and property management has a moral dimension. A fundamental way to address many of the issues that we confront as a society today is to use the land and properties that we have more thoughtfully. GoodLands provides the information, insights, and implementation tools for Catholic communities around the world to leverage their land holdings to address pressing environmental issues and everything from that to mass migration. We combine community involvement, design, and mapping technology to reveal high-impact opportunities for land use strategies that have a regenerative impact on social, environmental, and economic systems, while transforming a sense of ownership of land into stewardship through top-down planning combined with bottom-up community involvement and education. Thoughtful property management fosters a clean environment, promotes public health, addresses social justice concerns, adds beauty to the world, and supports life in many species, and allows us to glorify God through our care for creation. We really believe that this could be so impactful. The church collectively comprises the largest non-governmental networks of humanitarian aid, healthcare, education, and very likely land around the world. And if it adopts forward-looking land use practices, it can enhance every single ministry concerning health, justice, environmental stewardship, and community well-being, nevertheless, its own financial stability. In other words, it can put a huge dent globally in all areas of sustainable development outlined in the encyclical Laudato Si. Nevertheless, SDGs, especially those related to SDG 15, life on land, whether it's addressing invasive species or forest preservation. In 100 years, I dream of a world where the values of Laudato Si and the SDGs are integrated into the way that we approach our land. And I dream of a network of Catholic conservation that is at the scale and impact of Catholic healthcare around the world. GoodLands was originally founded to help Catholic communities implement environmental programs, but we quickly learned that what we were doing was really useful for a lot of other goals. So we provide comprehensive land use planning, map making, and data systems development. The logic driving this is you really can't plan land without maps, and the data that we map for maps is really valuable. So a good example of how it could be used would be if we did a conservation plan for a diocese and there was a major disaster there, the diocese would be able to share their property information with a group like Catholic Relief Services to aid in rapid disaster response. Some highlights of our programs from the last year include helping the Vincentian family map out their properties. This is a religious family of 2 million people, and their work is so amazingly inspiring. If you've ever heard of the De Paul International or the St. Vincent de Paul Society or the Daughters of Charity, they are on the ground with the poor, changing the world, and I'm so honored to be able to help them understand their land and leverage it for good and understand it in the face of the growing migration crisis that we're facing. We're also working with the Catholic Foundation for Education to develop a suitability analysis to understand geographic and financial accessibility of Catholic schools in the entire United States and expanding Catholic education for all. As part of the Vatican Arts and Technology Council, which is also sometimes called Arts and Technology for Tenderness, we recreated a lovely hall of maps downstairs last year in December. We have mapped and measured over 100 metrics for conservation on 92% of Catholic properties within the US CCB. This is an example of where those properties are. And we also have an exciting emerging project that is a collaboration between GoodLand and the Georgetown Program on Forced Migration that I will talk about more. The GPFM provides an early warning system for forced migration, no matter where or when in the world it may happen. It identifies drivers that improve response. It's an integrated data collection and automated analysis platform based on Georgetown's EOS system. This was a $70 million investment from the school. The EOS system was created in 2006 to conduct biosurveillance by scraping, collecting, and analyzing over 100,000 internet-accessible articles from over 190 countries in 46 languages daily. It's been successful in providing early warning of human, plant, and animal disease spread and political instability. The technology can also be used to measure risk for food security, religious conflict, human trafficking, and forced migration. It uses a series of dread threat measures to predict local perception of threat over time, and it helps us to understand what's going on and where forced migration may be moving people in the future. By partnering with Georgetown to integrate their EOS platform, ATRA, and the Catholic geographic system that I discussed last year, we can understand how Catholic facilities, NGOs, ecclesiastical leadership may be exposed to and respond to the risks of migration, conflict, human trafficking, and disease. This is a simple integration could dramatically improve strategies and partnerships among major Catholic aid organizations, communities, and foundations to ensure coordinated responses that effectively allocate resources to people on the ground where they are desperately needed. I'm going to just skim through our challenges, but like many of you in the room, funding has been a huge problem. I'm essentially running a multi-million-dollar nonprofit through donations on a salary of $7,000 a year. And then for structural opportunities, I would like to conclude by saying Catholic communities around the world are making a truly necessary, life-saving, positive change that is measurably improving all of our lives here on earth, regardless of your religious persuasion. But we see room for improvement. Currently, the fair market value of property is determined by appraisers, and it's purely monetary. But modern technology, as you saw in that map of USCCB properties, allows us to define, measure, and understand social and ecological values of property. The value of Catholic properties and its land is not just about money. It's also about their potential impact that their maintenance could have in furthering the mission and ministries of the church. Does it make sense for the church to develop a valuation of its properties that recognizes a mission-centric, stewardship-based view of the land and property? And if that value were to be updated to include monetary alongside environmental and social work, I wonder, would this require a revision of canon law regarding the disposition of Catholic properties? And would such a revision, what would be the impacts? I think exploring it might reveal that it could truly enable transformative, effective management of those properties that could desperately address climate change tomorrow. Thank you.